against Mista'arvim terror. Watch this space. The electronic intifada. Israeli death squads kill 4 in Jenin. Israeli occupation forces killed 4 Palestinians, including a child, during a daytime raid in downtown Jenin, a city in northern West Bank, on Thursday afternoon. Videos recorded by eyewitness and security systems appear to show that the undercover Israeli forces extrajudicially executed at least one of those killed during the raid. Among those killed was Nidal Kazem, a 28-year-old field commander for the resistance faction Islamic Jihad. The slain fighter is the cousin of Raed Kazem, who was killed in a shootout with police in Jaffa hours after killing 2 Zionists in Tel Aviv's bustling Dizengoff Street during a string of deadly attacks in Israel around this time last year. A 3rd Zionist later died from his injuries. The day after Raed Kazem was killed on 9 April 2022, Ahmed Nasser al-Saadi, a field commander for Islamic Jihad, was killed by Zionist forces during a punitive home demolition raid targeting a house in Jenin belonging to Raed Kazem's family. And in September last year, Raed Kazem's brother Abdel Rahman was killed in Jenin in an apparent extrajudicial execution. The Qassem brigades, the armed wing of Hamas, said that Yusuf Salih Shrahim, who was also killed during Thursday's raid, was one of its commanders. The other slain Palestinians were identified by the Palestinian Health Ministry as Omar Awadin, 14, and Louay al-Zugair, 37. Defense for Children International Palestine said that Omar Awadin was shot by undercover forces while riding his bike outside his parents' shop. The rights group said in a preliminary report that 2 civilian cars entered downtown Jenin at around 3 p.m. and without warning at least 5 undercover Israeli special forces dressed in plainclothes exited the cars and began firing live ammunition towards 2 young Palestinians on a motorcycle. Defense for Children International Palestine added that Zionist special forces shot one in the head and the other in the back and continued chasing and firing upon the one shot in the back, which is when Omar was struck with a bullet in his back. Omar Awadin is the 16th Palestinian child killed by Israeli police, soldiers, and settlers in the West Bank so far this year. According to the rights group, during the same period, a child in Gaza from injuries sustained in a Zionist strike last August. The Palestinian Authority Health Ministry said that 12 people were injured by live fire during Thursday's raid, 4 seriously. Video from the raid appears to show armed Israeli forces in civilian clothing getting into a silver sedan as shots ring out and a prone man lies on the road next to a motorcycle. Another video recorded from inside someone's home shows a different man lying on the ground near a motorcycle. The 4-second clip appears to show Israeli forces running up to the prone man and shooting him directly in the head with a pistol. The Tel Aviv Daily Haaretz said that the video shows Zionist forces shooting Nidal Kazem in the head while he lay prone and unarmed to confirm he is dead. Security camera footage recorded from inside a jewelry shop shows Zionist gunmen disguised as civilians deploying in the bustling commercial center as Palestinians going about their day flee in panic. Other video clips show Palestinians surrounding and throwing objects at the civilian vehicle in which the undercover forces were traveling before being dispersed by gunfire. Some clips also show the vehicle being towed by the military as occupation forces withdrew from Jenin. And although the undercover forces carried out their deadly task, this chaotic departure from Jenin suggests that not everything went to plan. Increasingly fatal raids. Once rare daytime raids were resulting in multiple Palestinian fatalities in areas under ostensible Palestinian Authority control are becoming an increasingly frequent occurrence, particularly in the northern West Bank. More than 170 Palestinians died during raids typically before dawn in the West Bank last year, according to Al Jazeera. And at this point, 170. Yeah, we're more than halfway there. Yep, at this point. Israel's daytime raids, and this is, we're not a third of the way through the year, and we're more than halfway there. Not a quarter of the way through the year, we'll say. Israel's daytime raids are proven even deadlier as Palestinian bystanders are struck by Zionist forces' indiscriminate fire. A 3D analysis published by the Washington Post shows that the Zionist troops fired into a group of civilians in Nablus last month, killing a 16-year-old boy and a 65-year-old retiree near a mosque and a health clinic. A total of 11 Palestinians were killed during that 22 February raid that was apparently aimed at apprehending or killing members of the Lion's Den, a recently formed armed group based in the northern West Bank city. The Zionist raid in Nablus last month was the single deadliest military operation in the West Bank since the United Nations began recording data in 2005. According to an official with the world body, Zionist leaders appear to be aware that the pretext for the deadly raids are hollow and that attacks like the one in Nablus last month and in Jenin on Thursday only escalate violence and make Zionists less safe. Following the raid on Nablus, Zionist authorities were reportedly bracing for possible ripple effects from the operation, such as revenge terrorist attacks in the West Bank, Al-Quds, and the interior, or rocket fire from the Gaza Strip, according to the Jerusalem Post. According to some close observers, the new far-right government in Tel Aviv may be deliberately seeking a violent escalation to provide a pretext to implement its aims to formally annex West Bank land and further consolidate its colonial apartheid rule. Zionists may also deliberately terrorize the civilian populations of Jenin and Nablus in an effort to turn them against the resurgence of armed resistance in these cities, a strategy that Tel Aviv has tried in Gaza without success, but at great cost to more than 2 million Palestinians living in the besieged territory. In the end, Zionists may only be succeeding in turning people against the Western-backed Palestinian Authority, as it's proven totally unable to protect them from increasingly lethal incursions into the hearts of Palestinian cities. Khalid El-Gendi, an analyst with the Middle East Institute, a Washington think tank funded by the UAE and the state-owned Saudi Aramco oil company, points out that, according to a new poll, for the first time ever, a majority of Palestinians now support the dissolution of the PA. The PA, meanwhile, has escalated its own crackdown as part of a recent U.S. brokered agreement pressuring Ramallah to work with Zionists to de-escalate the situation in the West Bank to prevent further violence. The group Lawyers for Justice noted on Tuesday an uptick in arbitrary arrests by Palestinian security forces in the West Bank. Some Palestinians were arrested due to their participation in the funeral for Abdul Fattah Khroushchev, who was killed by Zionist forces in Jenin on 7 March in what may amount to an extrajudicial execution. Khroushchev is accused by Israel of shooting and killing 2 Israeli settlers in Hawara near Nablus in late February. Palestinian Authority police assaulted Khroushchev's funeral procession with tear gas canisters and used force to disperse mourners, causing the slain man's corpse to fall, the Palestinian Center for Human Rights reported. The scene was reminiscent of Israeli police's assault on the Jerusalem funeral for Shireen Abu Akleh, the legendary the legendary Al Jazeera correspondent who was shot and killed by an Israeli army sniper during a raid in Jenin in May last year. Zionist police, soldiers, and armed civilians killed more than 200 Palestinians last year. In the first 2.5 months of 2023, nearly half that number have been killed, with a total of 86 Palestinian fatalities at the hands of Zionist forces. 15 Israelis and foreign nationals were killed by Palestinians during the same period or died from injuries sustained previously, all but one of those fatalities occurring in the West Bank. From the cradle, Zionist troops carry out daytime execution of resistance leaders in Jenin. A 16-year-old Palestinian was among the 4 who were killed in the undercover raid in downtown Jenin. An undercover Israeli Special Forces unit infiltrated downtown Jenin in the occupied West Bank and killed 4 Palestinians on 16 March, the Palestinian Health Ministry said. The 4 have been identified as 29-year-old Youssef Shraim, a 28-year-old Nadal Kazem, 37-year-old Luel Zugir, and 16-year-old Omar Awadin. Shraim, Kazem, and Zugir have been claimed as members of the resistance. Shraim was a commander of Hamas military wing, the Ezzedine al-Qassam brigades. Kazem was a commander of the Jenin brigade of the Gaza-based Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement, and Zugir was a fighter in the Al-Aqsa Martyrs brigade. The undercover Israeli force surreptitiously snuck into the city center of Jenin on board two civilian vehicles during the busy hours of the day before they assassinated 4 Palestinians at point-blank range, according to Palestinian news agency Wafa. Following the assassinations, the Special Forces unit were caught on camera running out of the area and hopping into an armored Israeli vehicle as gunshots rang in the vicinity. Shortly afterward, a Zionist army force raided the area, resulting in heavy clashes. The Palestinian Health Ministry confirmed the injury of around 20 Palestinians as a result, including 4 who are in critical condition. In a statement, the Hamas resistance movement said, "We mourn the martyrs of Jenin and affirmed that the occupation will pay dearly for its crimes. The cowardly assassination of 2 leaders of the resistance will not go unpunished." The assassinations came just a day after a violent Israeli military raid near Nablus Balata village, which was carried out in protection of settlers who were being escorted by the troops to the Joseph's Tomb holy site. The Lions Den resistance faction confronted the Zionist troops with gunfire and targeted their infantry force and military vehicles with explosive devices, resulting in injuries among their ranks. This comes as the West Bank resistance is spreading exponentially and posing an increased threat to Zionist troops, particularly in Jenin, which has become a significant bastion of an armed struggle recently. The army is determined to eliminate the Islamic Jihad in the northern West Bank, which is trying to spread its groups to the south of the West Bank and the center, and the recent assassination operations are highly effective. Zionist military radio quoted security sources saying that sounds like something the Zionists would say. Thursday's assassinations have brought the number of Palestinians killed by by Zionists since the start of the year up to 88. And from International Middle East Media Center, undercover Israeli soldiers killed 4 Palestinians in Jenin. On Thursday, Zionist soldiers, including undercover forces, killed 4 Palestinians, including a child and a young man who was executed after being shot and seriously injured and wounded more than 21 Palestinians, 5 seriously. In a statement, the Palestinian Health Ministry said the soldiers killed Yusuf Saleh Barakat Shrem, Nadal Amin Zadan Kazem, and Omar Mohammed Awadin and Louis Khalil Sagair. Defense for Children International Palestine branch said on Twitter account, Zionist Special Forces shot 14-year-old Omar Awadin. There have been conflicting reports that he's 16 as well, let's be clear, in the back with live ammunition while he was riding his bike outside his parents' shop around 3 p.m. today in Jenin. He was pronounced dead on arrival at Jenin Government Hospital. The health ministry added that the soldiers shot at least 21 Palestinians, including 4 who suffered life-threatening wounds. It said 12 Palestinians who were shot with live fire, including 4 who suffered serious wounds, were rushed to the Arazi hospital. 5 were moved to Jenin Government Hospital. 6, including 1 who was seriously injured, and 1 who was rammed by an army jeep, were moved to Ibn Sina Specialized Hospital. One of the wounded Palestinians, a child, Ahmad Farana, will be transferred to the Al-Maqasid Hospital in Jerusalem due to the seriousness of his wounds. Eyewitnesses said Zionist soldiers infiltrated the center of Jenin and executed the Palestinians before many army vehicles invaded the area and started firing dozens of live rounds at the Palestinians and surrounding homes and properties. A video from the scene shows an undercover soldier executing the seriously wounded Nadal Amin Kazem after shooting him a live round in the head, even though he was already lying flat in his stomach, motionless and unconscious. Palestinian medics tried to reach Nadal, but the soldiers did not allow them through before the undercover officer executed him. There's been a serious increase of cases where Israeli soldiers executed Palestinians, including in January of this year, when the soldiers killed Ahmad Kahala, a father of 5, from point-blank range with 2 live rounds in the neck near a military roadblock under Yarbrud Bridge, east of the central West Bank city of Ramallah. A similar incident occurred on December 2nd, 2022 in Hawara town, south of the northwestern bank city of Nablus, when the soldiers executed Amar Hamdi Mifleh, 22 while he was lying on the ground after shooting Ammar on the ground once. The soldier then fired a total of 4 times. Ammar was unarmed and was lying on the ground when he was shot. After concluding its offensive in Jenin, the Israeli army said it carried out a joint operation with the undercover forces and intelligence officers, adding that one of the Palestinians, Abdal Amin Kazem, was a senior fighter of the Al-Quds brigades of the Islamic Jihad and was behind serious attacks against Zionist targets. The army claimed that the soldiers neutralized a Palestinian who tried to throw a large iron object on the army, and stated that the soldiers fired live rounds at Palestinian fighters who engaged in fire exchange with soldiers, and said its operations will continue to ensure Zionist security. The health ministry said the number of Palestinians killed by Zionists since the beginning of this year is 88, including one detainee who died in prison, and added that among the slain Palestinians are 17 children and 1 woman. It stated that 35 of the Palestinians are from Jenin Governorate, 21 from Nablus, 7 from Hebron, 6 from Jerusalem, 5 from Jericho and Jordan Valley, 5 from Kalkilia, 3 from Ramallah, 2 from Bethlehem, 1 from Salfit, 1 from Tubas, and 2 from the Gaza Strip. And watch this space. We'll be back with more news.